The following is a documentary prepared over the spring 2010 semester at Simon Fraser University for our third-year English course. Our objective was to talk candidly with Canadians about their feelings on patriotism and national identity. The 2010 Olympic Games in Vancouver was our backdrop. The Games provided a context for these issues to be revisited. We were curious about how a nation that is known for its lack of patriotism deals with hosting the most intensely patriotic international event imaginable. We spoke to 12 individuals, all varying in age, opinion, and cultural identity on these topics. We hope you enjoy.
I'd say Canadian identity is we're proud that we're immigrants, so that we've taken the initiative to leave and start anew, right? We have built ourselves up. We don't have a legacy that we've inherited. We're self-made people.
It's one of the important things in life that means it's impossible to define scientifically. It's one of those things which has to be experienced, like how do you know when you're in love?
Okay, that's a difficult one, kind of abstract, but definitely not what Douglas Copeland says, no beavers or inflatable mounties. I think more than anything, it's an abstract scene. It's not something you really understand until you've been immersed in it, or at least somehow absorbed. And so, whereas it's more metaphysical than anything else, it's not anything you can put a name to, it's a feeling. It's a gut feeling.
I don't know, I think that Canadians like to define themselves as like in a very idealistic way, which is like, you know, nice and multicultural. We don't really, we don't have an identity. I can't remember your question. We have no identity. We might as well just become part of the United States of America. No, not really.
Canadian, I say it's about being neutral more than anything else. About respecting other races, culture, because we're not a melting pot. We're a mix, as it is.
What do I think it means to be Canadian? I think there's a lot of cliches that immediately pop into my head, and I'm not totally comfortable with them. I don't know where they came from. I don't really want them there, but you know, all the stuff about politeness and sort of like, I don't know, political politeness.
Being Canadian is about being unfailingly polite, welcoming other cultures and traditions into your daily life, and being understanding and tolerant, I guess.
Maybe part of what building patriotism is being secluded as a nation for a while and having your border very strictly defined physically and culturally in many ways, and we totally didn't have that, you know. Like we really were
from
just
our existence, we've always just been bordering the US
and British and French, right? Like, you know, so
British, French, US.
British, French, American.
We've got to have more to bind us together if we want to be a nationality than just anti-Americanism.
Insofar as you have a positive patriotism versus a negative patriotism, and using the terms positive and negative correctly, that is strictly, then that would be a good thing. So insofar as your patriotism is defined by affirming, making a positive statement about something around yourself, rather than defining yourself negatively against somebody who happens to be beside you, I think that's a very good thing. I mean, you know, just like there must be a good analogy somewhere in terms of being in love. You know, are you in love with somebody because of them, or are you in love because they're not you were in a relationship for 5 years and, well, this person isn't like that other person. That obviously, that's not, you can see how that's not the best way for a relationship. Really, you want to be engaged with the other person and see their glory, charm, and beauty.
I don't think it's possible to suffer from an excess of patriotism, right? I think all patriotism is a good thing. It's good to have pride in your country, right? Now, I think this should be coupled with internationalism, right, as opposed to nationalism. You need to understand that you need to cooperate on the worldwide scale, but individually, it's good to be proud of where you come from, where you live, right? That's an integral part of who you are.
I'm not heavily patriotic. Maybe like I would be proud to say I'm Canadian, but I wouldn't be aggressively pro-Canadian.
I'd call myself quietly patriotic. Yeah, being unfailingly polite, things like that, screaming at hockey games, that's about as far as it goes.
We all have to be born somewhere. We just happen to have been born here, and how does that? Why should that affect your allegiance to a certain place? You know.
Growing up as a Korean Canadian, I never really felt a strong sense of nationalism or patriotism to any country, Korea or Canada.
Not Korea?
No, because it was like being in limbo, right? When I was younger, I understood notions of patriotism and nationalism, but never really understood the rationality behind why people felt nationalistic or patriotic. If anything, being an ethnic minority in another country made me nationless.
I don't know, I like things like healthcare. I like our more social leanings. One of the things I don't really like is, I don't know if this is patriotism or nationalism, but just kind of the gung-ho, aggressive, kind of we're better than everybody else attitude that Canadians do get sometimes. Just to generalize something I think about sometimes, I noticed that attitude coming around sporting events a lot.
I think people really started screaming about being Canadian, and it was, such a big deal. Canadian athletes did well, but really, I don't really know what that meant. What does that mean? You walk around the Olympic Village, and it was just beer garden after beer garden. So, is that being patriotic? I'm not sure.
I actually supported. I was really excited when it actually is in Vancouver already, and the one thing that I really like about it is the patriotism, because I've never seen Canadians be united in that way, and it's not even like a war or something. It's just the identity of being Canadian is just it's really strong, and I've never felt that before, and it's amazing.
I was opposed to the Olympics. I don't like them because I think they're I end up paying for the upper middle classes at play. So, and I'm against those kind of sort of self-promotional what I call artificial self-promotional activities. People are welcome to do them, and I hope they enjoy themselves. But making a public spectacle of them is not what I like. So,
I think it brought a sense of unity amongst everybody. I mean, you get to shake hands with strangers who you've lived in the same cities with and never met before, and it's a chance for everyone to bond. So, I think we've got a lasting bond now.
Was anyone downtown after Crosby put the overtime goal in?
No.
No, you were downtown, Jacob?
I was downtown like
Describe the scene that you saw downtown.
Chaos, but
good chaos.
A good chaos. Like, I thought it was absolute.
People hugging each other.
There was. I've never high-fived so many strangers in my life, and there was obviously, like, in the papers afterward, the day after and so forth, there was. You hear people wearing American flags and getting hassled and whatnot, but I didn't see any of that myself. All I saw was people out having fun, being happy, and that's it.
I did go downtown one of the nights, the night of the big hockey game, the last night of the Olympics. I went downtown just because I was like, well, I should probably see what this is all about. And what I got was a lot of people fighting, a lot of like aggressive kind of pushing people around, and sort of under this veil of being really happy about this sporting event, but I felt like it was just maybe more that people needed an outlet than anything else. And yeah, I found it offensive and intimidating as well. It basically was a giant party. It was, our arts funding and medical funding going into a giant party. And I think about that, a friend of mine put it a really good way. She said, it's like, what did she say? It's like somebody took all your grocery money for the entire year and had a kegger with it, and then was like, it was your choice whether you're going to drink the beer or not, I don't
know. I think I think people have like a legitimate argument against having the Olympics here, and like a lot of the I don't know, First Nations groups were upset about it and things.
What do we want? Justice! What do we want? Justice!
welcoming committee. Like there was a confluence of all like the Olympic dissenter parties coming together and forming one massive protest group, you know. So I mean, there was even, you know, people getting together in that sense, like to be against something, right?
Yeah.
To define themselves negatively, and I thought that was neat. I'm thinking specifically the protesters. That's almost unheard of, like in, you know, at Olympics, not on that scale anyway, and not like public vandalism.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
so
shocked me. I was so.
Yeah, that was
so
a
shocked to see
huge, angry, you know, anarchist mob. And
Were you talking about the left-wing agitators who were breaking things? I hated that. I mean, I really hated that for also, you know, many different reasons. Primarily because I don't think looting and rioting is a good idea. I think it's horrible.
Hi, my name's Kelsey Erickson, and my ideal Canada would have free education.
My ideal Canada is a Canada where every human being is able to define it for themselves, and where it's not so much about support as alliance.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Kwong, and my ideal Canada would have cleaner streets and a theme song every time you walk down the street.
My ideal Canada would be a patriotic Canada with people who like the geography, like the culture, that is like the institutions, that's bilingual. It's a bilingual country, and it's a country where differences are tolerated, but differences of things like political differences. There should be I'd like there to be a difference and acceptance of the fact that people disagree politically and socially as well as morally, without committing the argumentum ad Hitlerum. That is to say, you're not the same as me, therefore you're Hitler. So that would be a Canada without that would be my kind of glorious Canada. A dialectical Canada. A Canada that has Margaret Atwood and Don Cherry, both of them equally fated.
My name is Darren Bellamy, and my ideal Canada is pseudo-communist.
My ideal Canada would obviously be a utopian, like, you know, like social welfare, like, you know, like communist, like mentality, like type, like country. Obviously, like who doesn't want to live in a country like where, you know, our political leaders are altruistic and like benevolent and doing things for the betterment of all good. Like, I mean, that would be my ideal Canada. But the thing is, the world doesn't function like that. And as we know, communism, you know, which is based on utopian ideals, doesn't work because there's always people and personalities that get in the way of any. I mean, doesn't matter. It's always a power struggle. I mean, it comes down to like, what is human nature? What is human nature? That's my question for you.
my name is Brad Isles. My ideal Canada is a Canada that rides its bike, takes Fridays off, and is allowed to drink in public. And has a good government too. Thank you.
I would definitely like to see more arts funding coming from the position of an artist and a musician. Like, you know, certain provinces have really great arts funding. British Columbia does not. We have, I think, the worst arts funding in all of Canada, and it was just cut 90% for the Olympics. So it was bad before, and now it's basically non-existent. And I'd really like to see more of that.
I would have it policed a bit better, and I would have the judges, the judiciary forced to be not so, 5 martini lunches, and I saw a guy plead guilty to beating up a bus driver. Now, it used to be if you hit anybody with a crown on his uniform, it was an automatic 6 months in jail. Well, this judge, who's dead now, of liquor, had cancer of the pancreas or something, but anyway, good old guy, but anyway, letting me go. Anyway, he gave this guy who beat up a bus driver probation and a suspended sentence. Now, you know, where are you going to draw the line? You know, I mean, you've got to pretty well murder the queen to go to jail in this province. You know, and that ain't right. You know, I mean, we've got to have some order.
Hi, my name is Jacob Stopa, and in my ideal Canada, every Canadian has a roof over their head, food in their belly, and gets A's on school projects.
I've been traveling overseas, and like I'm proud to say I'm Canadian, and I could travel for a long time, but I would always like want to live in Canada. Like when I come home, it's just like Canada air. Like I just really like.
I feel that too. I never felt that way, but I'll happily live abroad like
for like a year or
two. But I always want to come back to Canada.
Home.
I want to come home. It's my home.
And just like the coast and the mountains, like just geographically, like
it's the most stunning place on the face of the earth.
Maybe the fact that you go, no matter where you go in the world, you always consider this home, and the fact that you want to come back to Canada, that's to do with patriotism.
Yeah.
Like you always consider this your home.
You feel like you belong here.
That's almost like the one criteria too. Hey, like
coming back.
If it's your home, you're patriotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.